It's 2019 and the Gixxer SF is back with major updates. There is an all-new bodywork along with wide LED headlamps. They have tidied up the tail section as well and added a neat-looking LED tail lamp, and the motorcycle has a big bike feel to it. The standard handlebars have been replaced by low clip-on handlebars, and it affects the rider ergonomics. Still powered by the 155cc single-cylinder motor, the motorcycle produces 13.9 horsepower at 8,000 rpm and 40 Newton meters of torque at 6,000 rpm. Despite of all of the fairing, the motorcycle has a light curb weight of just 146 kilograms. Braking duties are taken care of by a 310mm single disc up front with 4-piston calipers from Vibre, and the rear is a 240mm disc with a single piston caliper. Suzuki did not compromise on tire sizes, and the 140 section rear tire is pretty wide and same as the Hornet and the Yamaha FC V3. The seat height is a very reasonable and low 795mm, and the motorcycle comes with the 12 liters of fuel tank. With the 42 kilometers per liter expected mileage, the range is coming to a very neat 500 kilometers. I've been waiting to ride this motorcycle for over a month, and finally that it's here, let's go out and test it out. Before we jump into the review, this motorcycle has been given to us for a full test drive and review road test by Suzuki Motors Kolkata. So their numbers are on your screen. If you want a test drive, if you want to book any of the motorcycles, then give them a call. They'll give you a test drive or a booking, so contact them. Alright guys, so it's time for some cornering, some top speed tests. Let's take the top speed now. So we got to 123 kilometers per hour, and if you can sit on that throttle, if you have a lot of space, I'm sure you can do more, but for all practical purposes it's gonna be that 123-124 kilometers per hour. The front end feel, I would say we could do with a bit more. It's decent, it's still very commuter bike-ish. It's not like R15. It's the ergonomics, you know, initially we were like, yeah, it feels a lot like R15, but the R15 has a better front end feel. It's a more expensive bike, 6 gears, about 5 horsepower more. Okay, I activated the ABS a little bit because of the pretty hard braking, and the ABS works pretty good. How do I know I activated the ABS? Well, the front brake lever started vibrating, and that's the indication that you have activated the ABS. It doesn't kick in pretty early, it kicks in late, which is the way I like it, because early kicking in is, according to a rider, it's like you know you're not screwing up with the brakes, but the ABS kicks in and it kind of interferes with the way you want the motorcycle to stop. That's not a good thing, so it's better when it kicks in late. Looks wise, you know, the FZ's got the naked bike styling. This obviously is more eye-catchy with the sport bike styling. Both of the motorcycles have LED headlamps, and I think because this has a wider beam to it, the headlamp efficiency will be more on this. So we'd have to see how the Gixxer naked does, because that's going to be really the closest competition. So here you can understand how linear the power delivery is. There is no real surprise even if you're trying to get to the full acceleration. Now that we've seen the handling, let's get back to the early morning first ride analysis. It's pretty early in the morning and starting up on the Suzuki Gixxer SF 150. The ergonomics has changed. The previous one was probably a little less aggressive. It feels more like an R15 now. You know, not the V3, but if you've ridden the V2 or the V1, kind of similar to that. Foot pegs maybe rare set, but not maybe extremely rare set. The refinement over the previous bike has definitely increased. This is a way smoother engine, lesser vibes, and I guess you know, moving into Euro 6 or BS6 norms, motorcycles are kind of losing their power, and this has probably lost about half bhp or 1 bhp of power from the previous version. That is to make it like less pollutant and more Euro 6 compliant. It's still not Euro 6 certified, but they are kind of moving into that direction. The top end has dropped in the BS4 versions that I was testing from the BS3 version. So it is true, the emission norms are hitting our power pretty hard, especially top end power. But you know, round town commuting like what we are doing right now, you don't really feel that much of a difference. If you are used to sport bike kind of aggressive riding posture, then you won't find this a problem. The console, I think even the previous one was pretty informative. It still has that same look to it, but the previous one was kind of clumsy with a lot of information. You know, some people like that. I personally found it to be a little bit more clumsy. This one's more cleaned up dash, so that looks pretty good. And 150 is that segment where people look at performance to power to mileage ratio, and they want a bit of performance, bit of power, and they still don't want to compromise on the 40 to 45 kilometers per liter mileage that these motorcycles provide. Almost all the motorcycles in this segment provide 42 to 45 kilometers per liter. The last motorcycle that we rode in this segment was this Yamaha FZ V3, and that motorcycle also wasn't really big on power. I think it was also around this 14 horsepower, the same amount of number, but it was a pretty smooth bike and I liked it a lot. We reviewed it in English and Hindi, and you guys supported both the versions, so thank you for your support on that. And when you're comparing these two bikes, I think they're pretty much alike. Now, I've talked about this a lot of times, but I just say it here again. It doesn't really matter if you're riding a naked bike or a faired bike, because despite this being a faired bike, yeah, it might be having a little bit more front end feel in handling and all of that, but when you're talking about wind protection, this windshield is at my stomach height. It's not gonna, I'm completely exposed up here, so it's not gonna give you that much wind protection. It's very beginner friendly. The power comes in kind of like in a very linear fashion, and 150s, I've always had this hollowness which is there in most of the 150cc motorcycles. So this one, Gixxer, has always been the most sporty of the lot, and they have kept up the tradition. It feels way more direct, so that feels good. Bike feels pretty good. Front end feel is not fully like the R15, it's a little less. The front doesn't feel all that heavy and confidence inspiring, but it's more than a naked bike, I would say. They have clip-on handlebars, and the clip-on handlebars are lower. Still, the bike is not like superly aggressive, but you can move back and sit in a more aggressive fashion if you prefer it, because the seat's pretty long. That guy got scared. I wasn't gonna hit him anyways. Looking at the console, we have the RPM, which is on the top. We've got a speedo, we've got auto, we've got a clock, we've got gear position indicator, and on top there's this white LED that comes on. That's the gear shift indicator light. And on the right side we have the fuel. Okay. Woo. Suspension, I would say it's on the harder side considering it's an Indian commuter bike. So the brakes, you know, brakes are good, but there I skidded the rear brake a little bit. Remember a single channel ABS, so slightly bit more stopping power. Maybe just a new bike, maybe it'll improve. It's not bad, but it's just that we are testing it to its limit, and when that happens, it's kind of like you wish you had a little bit more stopping power. If you find yourself on some bad roads, you know, it's a commuter bike, it's gonna go everywhere. Let's see how it handles that. What I really wanted to test out was the suspension, and yeah, it is on the harder side. Not just the front, even the rear is bouncing around quite a bit, and that means this is one of the most stiffest suspensions in commuter bikes. That's obviously was helping me in the handling, but yeah, on bad roads, probably not the most comfortable motorcycle. In the previous Gixxer SF, the neat looking double barrel exhaust was too low and it scraped on some high speed breakers. In the new version, they have seemed to have raised it. We tested it out with the pillion, and on the speed breakers we faced, we did not scrape the bottom or the bottom of the exhaust. Even in tight traffic situations, the motorcycle is easy to ride and it's lightweight and quick to maneuver. However, I would like to talk about some of the downsides. The riding position is aggressive and the suspension is stiff, which affects ride quality on bad roads and tires you out in comparison to other commuter bikes. The gearbox was really clunky on the previous bike, and though they have improved it, it's still not perfect. The mirrors are at an awkward angle and a lot of rider elbow is visible. The engine feels stressed after 7,500 RPM and vibes creep in on the foot pegs, though it's nothing serious. And that's it. Now let's move right into the conclusion. So we've been riding the all-new 2019 Suzuki Gixxer SF 150. Now let's jump right into the conclusion. When you're talking about the motorcycle, the engine is very refined. The power comes in very linear and it's very beginner friendly. Very similar to the motorcycle that we rode recently, the Yamaha FZ V3. So not much to differentiate in terms of performance and refinement. So the difference where it comes is the looks. Obviously that's a naked bike, and this will also have its naked version, but today we are looking at the faired version. Clip-on handlebars, aggressive riding position. The bike really has a big bike feel, has a lot of road presence. So handling wise, it's a pretty good motorcycle. If you take a look at the Yamaha FC, even that did well in corners, but this having clip-on handlebars does add a little bit more front end feedback and feel. You can really push it hard in the corners once you get adjusted to the motorcycle. You can put in stickier tires from Pirelli maybe. The stock MRFs are doing quite good, but you know, you can always add better set of tires if you're a riding enthusiast. You want to really take this sport bike feel to the next level. For me, what I really was impressed by the bike is the overall build quality. The fit and finish is reasonably good. Pillion seat, despite being a sporty looking commuter, a lot comfortable in the pillion seat. Even the rider seat's pretty wide and comfortable. A very low seat height, which means riders of all heights can access it and ride it. Definitely the best looking bike in this segment, so do check it out. The numbers are on your screen for a test ride or a booking. If you like this review, please share it and leave a like, and new viewers can subscribe as well. And I hope to see you guys on my next video.